Look down at the jeans you are wearing right now. On the front, just above the big right pocket, there is another one. A tiny pocket, so small it almost seems pointless. You have owned it your whole life, and you have probably never once used it. It is on almost every pair of jeans ever made. Levi's, Wrangler, cheap ones, expensive ones, all of them have it. This little pocket has quietly ridden along on billions of pairs of trousers, and hardly anyone ever stops to ask why it is there. And it is not just unused, it is almost unusable. Try to fit your phone inside, and it will not go. Try your whole hand, and only 2 fingers will squeeze in. It is far too small and far too shallow to hold anything you actually carry today. So what is it for? Most people have a guess. Some say it is for coins, some say condoms, some say matches, or a lighter, or a lucky charm. All of these can sort of work, but none of them is the real reason this pocket was ever born. Because here is the truth. This little pocket was designed for one very specific object. An object that was once precious, expensive, and carried by almost everyone. An object that has now almost completely vanished from our daily lives. It was made to hold a pocket watch. To understand it, we have to rewind more than 100 years, to the 1800s. Back then, there were no phones, no smartwatches, no glowing screens to check. If you wanted to know the time, you carried it with you, in the form of a small ticking machine. The pocket watch was the height of technology, a beautiful little device of gears and springs, often made of gold or silver, kept safe on a chain. For many people, it was the single most valuable thing they owned, and they treated it with real care. Gentlemen usually kept their watch in a small pocket sewn into their waistcoat or vest. It sat close to the chest, protected and easy to reach, a chain looped across the front, so that even if the watch slipped, it could never fall and shatter on the ground. But not everyone wore a fine waistcoat. Out west, there were miners, cowboys, railroad men, and laborers doing hard, dirty, physical work. They needed to know the time just as much as any gentleman did, but their world was rough, and a delicate watch did not last long in it. And this is where our story really begins. In the late 1800s, a man named Levi Strauss and a tailor named Jacob Davis created something new. Tough work trousers, made of sturdy denim, and reinforced at the stress points with little metal rivets. The key date was 1873, when the two men received a patent for their riveted trousers. It was a small idea that would one day clothe almost the entire world, but at first, it was simply the toughest, most rugged work pant that money could buy. These riveted trousers were built to survive punishment. They were worn by the men who dug the mines, drove the cattle, and laid the railroads across the country. The denim was thick, the seams were strong, and the rivets held the pockets together where ordinary trousers would tear apart. The earliest version of these trousers was fairly simple. It had just a few pockets, 2 large ones at the back, or sometimes only one, and 2 roomy pockets in the front, big enough for a rough working hand to reach into and grab a fistful of tools. But these workers carried watches too, and those watches needed protection. So the makers added one more small pocket, tucked inside the top of the right front pocket. A snug little pouch, sewn in specifically to cradle and guard a working man's pocket watch. It even had a name. It was called the watch pocket. That is its actual, original purpose, written right into the history of the trousers. Not for coins, not for keys, not for tickets. It was built, from the very start, to hold one precious ticking watch. And now the strange design finally makes sense. The pocket is small, because a pocket watch is small. It sits high and snug, because that keeps the watch from bouncing around or sliding out. And the tight fit held the delicate watch firmly, even during hard physical work. Look even closer, and on many old pairs you will find tiny rivets at the corners of this little pocket too. They were there to reinforce it, to stop the precious watch from wearing a hole and slipping out. Every detail was designed to protect that one small treasure. For decades, this all made perfect sense. A man would pull on his denim trousers in the morning, tuck his watch into that little pocket, and head off to work. The design was practical, purposeful, and used every single day, exactly as it was meant to be. But then, slowly, the world began to change. A new invention appeared that would make the pocket watch, and its special little pocket, almost completely unnecessary. That invention was something we now take entirely for granted. It was the wristwatch. Wristwatches had existed for a while, but they truly took off during the First World War. Soldiers needed to check the time quickly, with both hands busy, without fumbling for a watch on a chain. Strapping it to the wrist was faster, easier, and it simply made more sense. After the war, the wristwatch became the normal way to tell time. It was convenient and modern, and it quickly took over. The old pocket watch, once so treasured, slowly slipped out of fashion, until hardly anyone reached for one on a chain anymore. And so the little watch pocket lost its entire reason to exist. The precious object it was built to protect was gone from people's trousers. The pocket was now empty, purposeless, a small pouch designed for something almost nobody carried anymore. Here is the fascinating part. You would expect the makers to simply remove it, a useless pocket, serving no purpose, on millions of pairs of trousers. But they did not remove it. Instead, they left it exactly where it was, and it is still there today. This is a powerful idea called design inertia. Once a feature becomes standard, it tends to stick around, long after its original purpose is gone. Changing it feels risky and unfamiliar. Keeping it feels safe and normal. So it quietly survives, decade after decade. There were practical reasons too. The factories were already set up to make it. The pattern already included it. Redesigning every pair of jeans to remove one small pocket would have cost money and effort, for no real benefit. It was simply easier to leave it in. And something else happened along the way. The little pocket stopped being just a function, and became part of the look. People expected jeans to have it. Without it, a pair of jeans would seem somehow wrong, incomplete, missing a familiar detail everyone had grown used to. And people, being clever, slowly found new little uses for it. A few coins, a folded bill, a spare key, a guitar pick, a ring slipped off before washing dishes, a ticket stub, or a book of matches. It never went fully empty for long. Because of this, many people today no longer call it the watch pocket at all. They call it the coin pocket, or the ticket pocket, or the fifth pocket. The name has drifted along with its use, and the original watch has been almost entirely forgotten. So this tiny pocket is a kind of fossil, a little frozen fingerprint of a world that no longer exists. It quietly preserves the memory of a time when everyone carried a ticking watch, kept safe in a snug pocket, close at hand all day long. And once you know this, you start to notice that our clothes are full of these little ghosts. Features that once had a clear job, but now just linger out of habit, quietly carried forward long after the reason for them has faded away. Look at the buttons on the cuff of a suit jacket sleeve. Most of them do not actually do anything. They do not fasten or unfasten. Yet they are still sewn on, out of tradition, a decorative echo of a time when those buttons truly worked. The same is true elsewhere. Little loops, flaps, and stitches that no longer serve their first purpose, but survive because we simply expect them to be there. Our clothing is a museum of old habits, worn on our bodies every single day without a second thought. For the jeans themselves, the little pocket now does one final quiet job. It signals heritage. It whispers that these trousers come from a long line of tough, rugged, authentic workwear. Keeping it is a small nod to the history stitched into every single pair. This is why no maker really wants to remove it. Taking it away would strip the jeans of a piece of their soul. It would feel like erasing a small, honest link to the miners and cowboys who first pulled these tough trousers on so long ago. So the next time you pull on a pair of jeans, take a second to really look at that tiny pocket. It is a small time capsule, sewn into your clothing, a silent survivor from an age of gold watches, chains, and men who counted every minute of their working day. You have been carrying a little piece of history around with you this whole time, without ever realizing it. A pocket with no modern job, quietly holding the shape of an object that shaped the way an entire century once told the time. It was never a mistake, and it was never really useless. It was simply a solution that outlived its problem. A clever little answer to a question the world stopped asking, yet chose, out of habit and affection, to keep on carrying anyway. And now you have a new eye for it. You will start spotting these design ghosts everywhere. In your clothes, your tools, your buttons, your gadgets. Small survivors from older worlds, hiding in the most ordinary things, waiting patiently for someone to notice them. So here is the answer at last. That little pocket on your jeans is a watch pocket, built more than a century ago to protect a working man's most precious possession, and kept alive ever since by habit, history, and the quiet comfort of the familiar. It has been there all along, on almost every pair of jeans you have ever worn. A small, quiet marvel, hiding in plain sight. So the next time you get dressed, look a little closer. Because the everyday things around us are almost never as simple as they seem.